Module 14, the respiratory system. Stage 4 of cellular respiration, electron transport chain. The fourth and final stage of aerobic cellular respiration is the electron transport chain. This final stage is the one that produces the greatest amount of energy. Now, at the end of the citric acid cycle, we don't have any carbons left from the original glucose molecule. Of those 6 carbons, 2 were used to form carbon dioxide during the oxidation of pyruvate stage. And in the citric acid cycle, the other 4 carbons were also used to form carbon dioxide. So all of the carbons from the original glucose molecule, along with the oxygens of that molecule, are used to form carbon dioxide, which is what you exhale. The only other atoms that make up a single glucose molecule are the 12 hydrogens. Well, you have already learned that there are 2 chemicals in these reactions that behave as hydrogen acceptors, NAD+ and FAD. When they bind with hydrogen atoms, they become NADH and FADH2. These molecules thus have stored energy within their bonds that will be used in a minute. 2 NADH molecules were formed during glycolysis. 2 more NADH were formed during oxidation of pyruvate, for a total of 4 hydrogens used up. And in the citric acid cycle, 6 NADHs and 2 FADH2s were made. Now, though that represents 10 total hydrogens in that step, a single hydrogen atom from the glucose's carbon chain was donated to make each FADH2. So that totals 8 hydrogens from the third stage. So you can see how all 12 of the hydrogens within a glucose molecule are now within the NADH and FADH2 molecules. These energy-rich molecules then travel to the edge of the matrix of the mitochondrion, which is its inner membrane. The hydrogen atoms break off of these carrier molecules and form hydrogen ions and electrons. The electrons that popped off the hydrogen atoms move through a series of 7 different carrier molecules, and that's why this final stage is called the electron transport chain. Each time an electron moves from one carrier to another, a little bit of energy is released. That energy is necessary for active transport of the hydrogen ions so they can move across the inner membrane of the mitochondrion. Now those ions are in the intermembrane space, but they don't stay there long. They're forced by diffusion to move back through the inner membrane and into the matrix again. To do that, they have to travel through special channels that have ADP and phosphate groups on the other side of the channel. Thus, the ADP and phosphate utilize the energy of the moving hydrogen ions to combine to form ATP. This step of aerobic respiration is called oxidative phosphorylation, and there's enough energy made from each NADH molecule to make 3 ATPs during this process. Each FADH2 has enough energy to make 2 ATPs. So let's see where we are. First, we need to take away the 2 NADH molecules made during glycolysis. You'll see why in a minute. Knowing that each NADH molecule can produce 3 ATPs then, with the 8 remaining NADH molecules, we can make 24 ATPs. And because each FADH2 can make 2 ATPs, the 2 FADH2 molecules we have can produce 4 more ATPs. That totals 28 ATPs. Now let's get to those 2 NADH molecules made during glycolysis. They were made in the cytoplasm because that's where the first stage of aerobic respiration occurs. In order to take part in the electron transport system, they have to enter the mitochondrion first, and to do this, they lose a bit of energy. So that means instead of each NADH molecule creating 3 ATPs, these lose the energy to make 1 of them. Therefore, the NADH molecules made during glycolysis in the cytoplasm of the cell can each produce 2 ATPs during electron transport for a total of 4. Add those 4 ATPs to the rest made from the other molecules, and you have a total of 32 ATPs made during the electron transport system stage. So now we have a bunch of hydrogen ions in the matrix of the mitochondrion, along with a bunch of electrons that travel through a chain of carrier molecules. What happens to them? Well, up till now, we haven't talked about the oxygen atoms in this process. This is where they are located. At the end of the chain of carrier molecules, the electrons are passed over to oxygen molecules to give them a negative charge. Those oxygen ions will then combine with the hydrogen ions inside the matrix and produce water. Now, you need to know that I'm not showing you the exact number of electrons, oxygen, or hydrogen atoms involved here. If I did, these images would be harder to follow. So let's get back to the actual numbers in the chemical reactions. With the original 12 hydrogen atoms, then, we get 6 molecules of water. And don't forget the 6 carbon dioxide molecules that were produced in the previous reaction. This completes the stage of cellular respiration. After going over all 4 stages of cellular respiration, it's now time to sum everything up so you can get a good overall view. Looking at all 4 stages, we can summarize what materials are necessary for this overall process, as well as what materials are produced by it. During glycolysis, glucose is used up, and a net 2 ATPs are made. Actually, 4 are produced, but remember it took 2 ATPs to get this step started, so there's a net 2 ATPs that are made. During oxidation of pyruvate, 2 molecules of carbon dioxide are made. And then in the citric acid cycle, 4 more carbon dioxides are made, plus 2 additional ATPs. The electron transport system uses up oxygen and produces 6 molecules of carbon dioxide, 6 molecules of water, and a whopping 32 ATPs. So you can see in this original equation introduced at the beginning of this process right here, C6H12O6, or glucose, plus 6 molecules of oxygen gas results in 6 molecules of carbon dioxide gas, 6 molecules of water, and the energy stored up in 36 molecules of ATP. This is a perfectly designed process, enabling the cells to gently break down glucose and carefully store the released energy in a perfect package of ATP.